Hi, boys and girls. Um, Here's Miss Cornelio. I'm ready to teach you your math lesson for this week. As you can recall, last week we learned about graphs and we learned different strategies to do on our graphs, like circle the title, look at the categories, look at the scale, look at the key, make sure you label your graphs, all of those awesome strategies. Now this week, we're going to continue with graphs, but the graphs are going to get a little bit harder, but I know you guys can do it. You're even going to be writing some questions, um, your own questions about the graphs that you see, okay? Now, let me share with you that the first video that you saw, um, just a second. The first video that you saw was about this piece right here. Make sure that when you're watching the video, guys, you are doing the work with the teacher at the same time. I'm not going to go through and do this work this time because you have the video of the teacher teaching you this problem. So make sure you use this page while you watch the video number 1 for math this week. Okay. Now for my video, boys and girls, we're going to go ahead and review some vocabulary, some words. And we learned that this is a data table. We learned that these are called tally marks, and we count the tally marks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and we label it, all right? This is called a data table. We use a data table to get the data and to create a graph. Now here, we learned last week that this is called a pictograph, and it's called a pictograph because it gives you pictures that represent a number, right? And so this week, our pictographs are going to be very important because, like you remember, we have a key in a pictograph, and we did counting by 1. This week, we have to be very careful when we're looking at the key because it's going to tell us that not only are we counting by 1 anymore, we might be counting by 2, by 5, by 10. So this is going to be super important for you to check out right here. This one is telling us that each one of these is 2 cubed. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay. So this is a pictograph because it has pictures. Here we have a bar graph. And remember, our bar graph has categories. And then a bar graph also has a scale. A pictograph has a key. A bar graph has a scale. Now notice this time the lines, we're not counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're counting by 2 because the scale right here is counting by 2. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Sometimes the scale might be counting by 5. 0, 5, 10, 15, 20. In this case, we know it's counting by 2 because we are 2 by 2. Okay. In Spanish, pictograph is pictografía. Bar graph is gráfica de barras. Title is título. Data is datos. Information is información. Conclusion is conclusión. Determine, determinar. Prediction, predicción. And a bar is un bar, una gráfica de barras. Okay, so just wanted to go over this. If you have any concerns or questions, you can always come back and look at your anchor chart for this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start with this. Now you're going to have a similar page to do for your work this week. Here today we're going to be writing some questions. Okay, they gave us a graph, so let's go ahead and look at our graph. Write a question that the graph could be used to solve, then solve. So here we have animals at the park is your title. So I know this graph is going to be about animals in the park. Let's look at our categories: squirrels, chipmunks, rabbits, robins. Let's look at our scale. Oh, this is a pretty easy scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know we're counting. Count 1 by 1. So let's go ahead and label squirrels. 4, chipmunks, 2, rabbit, 1, and robin, 3. Okay, so all righty. So we see here that number 2 says, we saw these animals at the park: squirrel, chipmunk, rabbits, robin. Now you have to write a question. Let's pretend you're the teacher and you are writing a question for your kids. What question can you ask your students about this graph? Well, I was thinking about it and I'm like, I'm gonna give them a hard question. Now your question might be the same or it might be different from mine because we can ask many, many questions about this graph. So I was thinking, oh, I know. How many animals did we see at the park? And it's a question, friends. So remember, question mark at the end and capital letter at the beginning. So, if these are animals what we saw in the park, how can we answer this? What are we going to do? Well, we saw squirrels. How many squirrels? 4. We saw chipmunks. Chipmunks are animals too. 2. Rabbits are animals too. 1. And robins are animals too. So that's a 3. So in order for us to find the answer to how many animals, we have to add all of these together because those are all animals we saw. So we would say 4 squirrels plus 2 chipmunks plus 1 rabbit plus 3 gives me my answer to my question. Okay, so that would be 4 plus 2, 4, 5, 6, plus 1, 7, plus 3, 8, 9, 10. So the answer is 10. Now, you could have asked how many squirrels and chipmunks did we see in the park? And that would be 4 plus 2. You could ask how many animals were not rabbits. And so which ones are not rabbits? Squirrels are not rabbits, chipmunks are not rabbits, robins are not rabbits. So we would add 4, 2, and 3. Many, many different types of questions that you can ask. You need to come up with your own question. So let's move on to the next one. Here, they gave us a number sentence. Now we have to write a number sentence. We have to write a question using this number sentence and using our graph. So we know we're going to use a 3, which is robin. We know we're going to use a 2, which is chipmunk. So our question is going to have robins in it, and it's going to have chipmunks in it. And then it says here that we're going to add them. So let's think, what question could we ask that adds chipmunks and robins? Well, that's pretty easy. I can say, how many chipmunks and robin did we see in the park? Question. I just came up with a question for our graph. Okay, so we have 3 plus 2 equals 5. Okay, now let's go ahead and move on to number 4. Look at the bars in the bar graph. What do you know about the data just by looking at different lengths of the bar? What this question is asking you to do is tell me something that you learned from this graph or that you can see is happening in the graph. For example, I can see that squirrels were seen the most. Do you agree? Or I can see that rabbits were seen the least. Do you agree? Why? Because I see that the squirrel bar is the longest one and I see the rabbit bar is the shortest one, right? I can also see that there are more chipmunks, right, than rabbits, right? Why? Because the chipmunk bar is longer than the rabbit. So you can write any of those sentences right here. So I can say, I see the squirrel bar is the longest. So we saw squirrels the most. This is my sentence. I can also see, I see the rabbit bar is the shortest, so we saw rabbits the least. Or I can say, I see that the robin bar is longer than the rabbit bar, so there are more robins than rabbits. You have to talk about the bar, the size of the bar, and what does the size of the bar tell you, okay? This is pretty easy. When you do this one, remember, do it with me at the same time, okay? I just did page 55 with you. You are going to have to do page 57 on your own, and it's the same thing. You write your question, your answer. You use this number sentence to write a question about this bar graph, and then you look at the bars and write what you notice. Same thing, guys. I did this, you did this, okay? Now, the other part of your math homework today is remember how I told you, now we're gonna see keys that are 2 by 2s or scales that are counting 2 by 2. Now we're gonna be seeing graphs that count, use different scales and different keys, okay? Now, this says scales of 2 or more. So now we're going to look at the keys or the scales have 2 or more. Now here we have a bar graph and here we have a pictograph. Okay, now we're looking at our bar graph. Roses are 8, tulips are 4, daisies are 10, and violets are 6. So what we have to do, we have to complete this bar graph. Now notice this is counting 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That means we have a scale of 2. Notice here on the key, each circle now stands for 2 flowers. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8. Tulips is 4, so it's 2, 4. Daisies is 10, so it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And violets are 6, so it's 2, 4, 6. Okay, so now here, okay, let's go ahead and do our work. Flowers in the garden. Here are categories. This is a bar graph. I know that. This is a pictograph. I know that. Okay, we have our title. Here we know we're counting 2 by 2 because the key tells us so. And we know our scale is also counting 2 by 2 because we can see our numbers there. So we showed our work up here. Now, this one's an easy one. How many roses are in the garden? All we have to do is find roses. Boom, we already labeled it. It's 8. Okay. Now on the next one, this one that we didn't have to add, we didn't have to subtract. On this next one, we are going to have to make our window pane. Okay, and it says, how many more daisies than roses are in the garden? How many more daisies than roses? More than. If you remember, if we're comparing daisies and roses, daisies are here, roses are here. It's a compare problem, so therefore we have to subtract. So we say, how many more daisies than roses? So then we draw our picture. Daisies, let's look at daisies, is 10. Roses is 8, and we know 8 is a smaller number, and we want to compare. And this is our answer. We know it's a 10 minus 8 equals my answer, and the answer is 2, because we have to subtract 10 from 8, and it's 2. How did we solve our problem? We compared 10 and 8 to find the difference of 2. Okay, remember you have to show a window pane when you're adding or subtracting. Okay, number 3, how many tulips and violets are in the garden? That means we want to count the tulips and the gardens together. So again, this is another window pane problem. We want to know how many tulips and violets, right? So, oh, something I forgot to do, daisies, I'm going to put the number up here. Roses, I'm going to put the number up here. Tulips, it's 4, and violets is 6. That way I have my numbers there. So how many tulips? We have 4. How many violets? We have 6, and 6 is a bigger number. We're going to put them together to count them together. So 4 plus 6 equals 10. So how many tulips and violets? 10. How did I solve the problem? We added 4 and 6 to find the sum of 10. Okay? Now this next one is a little bit harder, guys, because it's a 2-step problem. Okay? First of all, we want to know how many more roses and tulips than daisies. Now notice that roses and tulips are together. So what we have to do here, roses and tulips, we're going to add these together, and then we have more than, so that means we're going to compare the roses and tulips together to daisies. So we're comparing two things that we're putting together here, which are the roses and tulips, and we're going to compare that to the daisies, okay? So we know this one is going to be a plus because we have to add our roses and tulips, and then we're going to compare them to daisies, which is 10. So again, this is another window pane problem. What do I want to know? How many roses and tulips? How many more roses and tulips than daisies? So first thing we have to do, roses and tulips, we have to put them together, right? So roses and tulips together, roses is what? 8, and tulips is 4, okay? And we're gonna compare that to daisies, and daisies are 10, okay? So notice here, we have to put these two together, and 8 plus 4 is 12. And then we're going to compare that to the 10. So first step, roses and daisies, we're going to add 8 plus 4. And then we're going to compare them with daisies, so we're going to subtract 10. First step is to add the roses and tulips. And then the second step is to subtract 10. Okay, remember 8 plus 4, oh, sorry, I'm going to do it over here. 8 plus 4 is 12, and 12, let's do our second step, minus 10 gives me 2. So the answer is 2. So how did we solve the problem? We added 8 and 4, and then subtract 10 to find our answer. Okay, remember guys, I did it right here, but you can use another paper to do your window pane when we're adding or subtracting. In this case, this one wasn't a window pane. These 3 were window panes, okay? When you're done with this one, you're gonna do number 60 on your own, okay? Number 1 is not a window pane problem. Number 2 is a window pane problem. Number 3 is a window pane problem. And number 4 is not a window pane problem. So you guys only have 2, and you can even do it on the bottom or on another sheet of paper or right here next to it. But I want to see nice and neat work. Now, something to think about as you're doing your work this week, remember this is page 60. You are going to be taking a picture of page 57 and of page 60 and sending it to me, okay? Something to notice about here. Please be careful with your key and your scale this week on this one. My scale and my keys were counting by 2. Notice how now you are counting by 0, 5, 10, 15 by 5s, okay? So make sure you're careful with that. Make sure you have your 2 math pages that you're going to turn in, and make sure you look at the other video that is posted by the other teacher, okay? Alrighty, guys, hope you enjoy our math lesson for this week, and have fun, okay? Let me know if I can help you with any questions. Got it? Alrighty, bye-bye.